Indiana basketball lost the Hoops Given Classic in Atlanta to Auburn, 104-76. Really just a bad loss for the Hoosiers, coming off a couple of very good wins. Kyler, Hoosiers came out hot, built up a 12-point lead early, and then after that, it was all Auburn. What did you kind of see from there?
Yeah, you mentioned it. Indiana started off really hot. I would argue and say that was probably the best start that we've seen from Indiana all season long, as I dropped my phone. But, yeah, they started off hot, got up by 12. And then all of a sudden, Auburn, really, really good, great coach team. Bruce Pearl's an excellent coach, and he's had success over the years due to his coaching, but they adjusted well. They matched what Indiana's intensity had. The Hoosier fans that were here fired up, brought it in. It was kind of like a home game to start off, but, Auburn didn't back down. What I kind of noticed from them, they're a real physical team, and they want to play physical. They want to play in your face, and that's exactly what they did with Indiana. They were pressuring the balls. They were making things not easy for Indiana's bigs, and that's really the first time all season that you've seen that. Other than the UConn game, they just didn't – I don't know. The bigs didn't click. They didn't like the physicality that what Auburn was bringing them. And then you throw in the fact that Indiana just stopped making shots. I think it ended up going 20-4 to close out the half, somewhere around there. So just the air out of the balloon quickly went out within the last 10 minutes of the game. And then the rotations, the bench play was not great for Indiana today, which has kind of been a shock because it's been trending upwards with that. But Auburn's a really good team. And Indiana, got smacked in the mouth at some point in this game, early in the first half, and they just couldn't respond. So, not a pretty game. Definitely Indiana's worst loss of the season so far.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like Indiana, especially early, really came out shooting. I mean, they hit their first 3 shots of the game. They made 3 threes, which was something we had not seen, and it was looking really up. And then Mackenzie Mbako didn't hit a shot after those opening minutes. Khalil Ware, 2 for 8. Mbako, 2 for 8 as well. Just seemed like they really struggled to shoot the ball, and when both those guys are struggling, it makes it really tough for Indiana to score the ball. But then defensively, giving up 104 points to Auburn. What did you kind of see on that end of the floor?
Yeah, I mean, Indiana, first of all, I want to give Auburn a ton of credit because they were hitting shots. And they were hitting shots unlike that they really, for this young season so far, Auburn has not hit shots like that. And they were hitting contested jumpers. They were getting to the rim. They were pretty much getting whatever they wanted. They shot the 3 ball, I think, pretty well for this game. And going in, they were not a good 3-point shooting team, just like Indiana. Very, very comparable in that regard. But defensively, this was not the defensive, Hoosiers that we've seen over the years. This is the most points that Mike Woodson led team has give up since the Syracuse game 2 seasons ago. And so that was his first season. That's a pretty crazy stat. And to give up over 100 points in a college game like that and 2 high major Power 5 programs, it's hard to see that, and especially if you're Indiana and Mike Woodson really, takes pride on the defensive end. And I mentioned it a ton already, but it's just the physicality and it's the motor that Auburn played with. I mean, they were the more physical team. They wanted to be the more physical team, and with that, Indiana just backed down, and for the most part, they were just soft this game. And that's just something that we haven't seen from this Indiana team, this season. It was a very weird game, and it was just a very, very ugly game. Even going back to the UConn game, that game ended up being pretty ugly, but Indiana was in that game for the majority of it. It just felt like when Auburn went on that run, there was just no way that Indiana was going to get back, even though they cut it down to 11. It was just really tough, and especially when you don't have a Xavier Johnson out there to be that kind of, on-ball guard and that kind of pest right now on defense, which really that Indiana really, really needed from their guards. It makes things a lot more difficult.
Yeah, so I guess Indiana now has a week off before they take on Kansas Assembly Hall. What do you want to see from them when they face Kansas next Saturday?
So obviously you're gonna have the crowd support. It being at Assembly Hall makes things a lot better. But Indiana's gonna adjust. They're gonna play a really good team, arguably a more talented team than this Auburn team. Kansas is one of the best teams in the nation right now, and Bill Self, we all know how good of a coach he is. But it's gonna start on the defensive end. Indiana can't allow Kansas to be physical. They can't allow them to just overpower them on anything. The defensive rotations are going to be spot on. and they're just going to have to be aggressive. So you obviously don't know what Xavier Johnson's health is going to be coming into that game. We'll just see. We got a week's time, but depending on if he's back or not, I mean, the guards got to play a lot better. They got to be able to create shots, and then honestly, the front court's got to have a bounce back game and everything. But we're getting into the point where this is by far Indiana's biggest game coming up next Saturday. If they were to lose this game, you're going into Big Ten, you're going into conference play without a signature win, and that's not a good thing for any Power 5 program looking to make a tournament run, because that means you've got to absolutely dominate when it comes to conference play. So this is a very big thing for Indiana, a very big game. They've got a week to prepare, which is nice. I think they need some injuries to heal up, especially with just the beating that they took today. I know there's a lot of sore bodies on that Indiana team, so they need to rest up, watch film, obviously, and just be prepared for the biggest game of the season.
Yeah, as we mentioned, next Saturday, Indiana is back in action against Kansas. This was the Hoosier Illustrated Wrap-Up. I'm Drew Rosenberg. That was Kyler Staley. As always, for all things IU athletics, follow Indiana_FRN on Twitter, Facebook, and check out the HoosierIllustrated.com website, and make sure to subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll be back Saturday.